I get it, you're scrolling through a sea of bookshelf speakers, trying to figure out which pair actually earns its price tag and which one will just end up as a pricey paperweight. You've probably spent a few minutes reading specs, watching unboxing videos, and wondering whether any of them will really fill your living room with music that feels alive instead of just on. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What I'm about to break down is not a laundry list of numbers, but a look at how the Acoustics 5010 pair behaves once they're actually sitting on a shelf, plugged into a modest amp, and playing the playlist you listen to every day. First off, let's talk about the bookshelf speaker category itself. In theory, a good bookshelf speaker should deliver a full-range sound that can stand up to a larger floor-standing unit when placed close to the listener. In practice, that promise hinges on a few design tricks: how the drivers are mounted, how the cabinet deals with vibrations, and whether the tweeter can stay clear of the mid-bass cone's movement. The 5010 tries to hit those points with a few standout ideas. The C-continuous curved cone is meant to smooth out the transition between low and mid frequencies, which is where many smaller speakers start to sound thin. The isolated high-frequency driver is positioned to avoid the cone's air turbulence, aiming for lower distortion at the top end. And the P2P bracing, essentially a network of internal ribs, helps keep the cabinet from resonating, which can make the imaging feel tighter. When I set the pair on a modest 12-inch shelf in my home office, the first thing I noticed was how quickly they seemed to fill the room. Even without a subwoofer, the bass was surprisingly present, not the wobbly rumble you sometimes get when a small speaker tries to overreach. That's the result of the curved cone doing its job. It pulls the lower mids forward without forcing the driver to work beyond its comfort zone. I was playing a mix of acoustic folk and some modern EDM, and the 5010 kept the acoustic guitars crisp while still letting the kick drums cut through without sounding punchy or distorted. One of the real-world tests I ran involved a movie night with a friend who's a bit of a home theater purist. We set the speakers at ear level, angled slightly inward, and turned on a dialogue-heavy thriller. The isolated tweeter helped the voices stay clear, and the imaging stayed stable even during the louder action scenes. I didn't hear the kind of boom that would make you feel the need for a separate center channel, but the overall soundstage was surprisingly three-dimensional for something that size. If your primary use is music with occasional movies, the 5010 gives you a respectable, immersive feel without demanding a full surround setup. Now, let's be clear about where the 5010 might fall short. Because the cabinet is compact, the speakers don't produce the deep, floor-shaking bass that a larger floor-standing model can. If you're a bass-heavy listener, think hip-hop, dubstep, or any genre that relies on sub-bass frequencies, you'll probably want to pair the 5010 with a dedicated subwoofer, or consider a larger speaker entirely. The design also means the rear of the cabinet is relatively open, so placing them too close to a wall can cause a slight boost in the low end that may feel a bit muddy. A couple of inches of clearance solves that, but it's something to keep in mind if you're working with a cramped bookshelf. Another practical point is the finish. The 5010 comes in 4 stylish options, including the Santos Rosewood that's currently on display. The veneer looks great on a polished shelf, but it's also a bit more delicate than a plain black or white cabinet. In a family environment with kids or pets, you might want to treat the speakers a bit more carefully or consider a more robust finish. Who should reach for this pair? If you're a mid-budget audiophile who wants a speaker that can sit on a bookshelf, a desk, or a small entertainment center and still deliver a balanced, detailed sound, the 5010 is a solid match. It shines for listeners who appreciate clarity in vocals and acoustic instruments, and who don't need massive low-frequency output out of the box. It also works well for people who care about aesthetics. The rosewood finish can act as a decorative piece as much as an audio component. Who should skip it? If you're building a dedicated home theater system with a focus on blockbuster movies, or if you're a bass enthusiast who expects your speakers to handle sub-bass without assistance, you'll probably feel limited after a few weeks. Likewise, if you need a speaker that can handle high SPLs for party-type listening, you might outgrow the 5010 faster than you'd like. In those cases, looking at a larger floor-standing model or adding a subwoofer would be a smarter investment. One thing that often gets overlooked in speaker reviews is how they integrate with everyday equipment. The 5010 doesn't require an exotic amp,